Okay, this is going to be the answer key video for lesson 10.2. This is the second worksheet. Okay, so on this, I can't reduce anything, but I'm going to go ahead and multiply by radical of 6 because I can't have a square root in the bottom. So I've got the square root of 42 on top. On the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and pair these up and move them out. So I've got a 6 on bottom. Now on the 42 here, I need to go ahead and break this down. So we've got 7 and 6 goes to 2 and 3. So nothing will pair up and move out. Okay, I cannot reduce this because this is an outside number, this is an inside number. So this here is your answer. Okay, number 2. All right, so like I said, if you are able to reduce your insides, go ahead and let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down to a 2 and a 3. So I just reduced 4 6 to 2/3. So right now I've got 7 root 2 on top and the square root of 3 on bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the square root of 3 on top and bottom. Okay, so when I do that, oops, on the bottom, these are going to pair up and move out. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 down there. On the top, I have a 7 on the outside. And on the inside, I can go ahead and multiply these together and get 6. Now 6 is going to reduce to 2 and 3. It doesn't pair up and move out, so that's good to go. And then on this bottom here, 7/3, that doesn't reduce either. So this is your final answer. On number 3, I can't reduce my fraction, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the square root of 5 on top and bottom. So on the top, I have the square root of 15. On the bottom, I'm going to pair up and move out the 5s, so I have a 5 on the bottom. Now 15 breaks down to 3 and 5, so nothing will pair up and move out. And when I look at this, this is an outside number, this is an inside number, so I can't do anything with that. So this right here is my final answer. Okay, number 4, again, if you can reduce numbers, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take 3's out of this and get a 1 and a 2. So now on the top here, I have right now the square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1 is just going to go to a 1. On the bottom, I have a 5 root 2. Now I can't have that square root of 2 on bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by square root of 2 on top and bottom. So I've got the square root of 2 over, technically it's 5 times the square root of 4, or you could just say it's 5 times 2, right? Because these are going to pair up and move out. And so I'm going to have the square root of 2 on top and then a 10 on bottom. Now, the 2 is on the inside, the 10 is on the outside, so you can't reduce those. Okay, on number 5, again, if I can reduce, I'm going to reduce, and I can here in this case. It goes to 1 and 2. So if I look here, the square root of 1 on top is just 1. I still have the square root of 2 on bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by radical 2 on top and bottom. So on the top, I have square root of 2, and on the bottom, pair them up, move them out. I end up with a 2, or you could think square root of 4 is 2. Now, again, this is an inside number, this is an outside number, there's nothing you can do with that, so this is your answer. Okay, so on this one, nothing I can really reduce. Well, I guess I could. I could go ahead and do this u squared, and I could go ahead and move that out. So technically, I would have a 7, a 3u, and then a 5v left here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 5v on top and bottom. So I've got 7, 5v on top. On the bottom, these are going to pair up and move out. So 3 times 5 is 15, and then I have a u and a v now left on bottom. Now, in this case, the 7 and 15 won't reduce, so this right here is my final answer. Okay, so on this guy, again, I'm going to go ahead and move this y to the 4th out and get y squared on the outside. I have the 2x left on the inside still, and I have a 6y squared. So in reality, the y squareds are actually just going to cancel out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and multiply by the square root of 2x on top and bottom. So I've got 6 radical 2x, and on the bottom, I'm going to pair up and move out the 2x. Okay, all right, so now inside my square root here is good to go. There's nothing I can do with this, but if I look to the outsides, I've got a 6 and a 2. Those will reduce to 3 and 1. All right, so right now I've got 3 root 2x on top with an x on the bottom. Okay, number 8. Okay, so on number 8, first thing I'm going, well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and reduce. So if I look here at my x and my x squared, so if I'm looking right here at this guy, my x and x squared, I can take this x out and then I'll have one x up here. Same thing with my y's. I can take this guy out and then I would only have 3 y's left down here. So right now I've got 7 square root of 2x on top. And on the bottom, I got the square root of 3y to the third. Now, there are other ways to do this. This is just one way to do it, okay? All right, so now I'm going to multiply by 3y to the third and 3y to the third, okay? So now on the bottom, these pair up and move out. So I'll have 3y to the third on bottom. On the top, I still have a 7 on the outside. Okay, and now I'm going to multiply my insides together. So I'm going to multiply that 2x and the 3y to the third and get 6xy to the third. Okay, now I can't do anything with the 6. It'll break down to 2 and 3, but it won't move out. X won't move out, but these y's, now that is something I can clean up. If I think about it, I've got 3 y's. I'm going to have one pair up and move out. So technically, I've got 7y. And then I have 6xy on the inside still. On the bottom, I've got 3y to the third. Now in this case, again, I'm going to have to go ahead and reduce because look at this. I've got y's on the outside that can be reduced. So I need to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take a y out of each and get a y squared. So my final answer is 7 radical 6xy. And then on the bottom, I've got 3y squared. And that's going to be my final answer. Okay, next problem here, number 9. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and reduce my a's on the inside here and take this to an a, and this a's gone. So right now I've got 3 radical of 7a on top, and on the bottom I just have the square root of 5. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply by the square root of 5 on top and bottom here. These are going to pair up and move out. So I have a 5 on the bottom. On the top, the 3 stays on the outside. And I'm going to put together the 7a and the 5. So 3 on the outside, and then I've got 35a on the inside. Now, if I think about 35, right, it'll break to, not 3, it'll break to 5 times 7. So nothing will pair up and move out. So this right here is going to be my final answer because the 3 and 5 on the outside, nothing can reduce there as well. Okay, number 10. All right, so if I'm looking at this guy right off the bat, the 6's will cancel out. So I'm going to get rid of those. On the inside, I'm going to reduce my r's to an r squared. Now, if I think, we'll go ahead and go from there. Okay, so I've got right now the square root of 7 on top, and I've got the square root of 2r squared on the bottom. Now, there's a couple of different things you can do here. I'm going to go ahead and move this r squared out because it will pair up and move out. So I'm going to have the square root of 7 on top, and then I'm going to have r on the outside and square root of 2 on the bottom. Now, I'm just going to multiply by what's in the square root. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2. On the top, I've got the square root of 14. On the bottom, these 2's are going to pair up and move out with that r, so I'm going to have a 2r on the bottom. Now, 14 here, this guy doesn't reduce. It reduces to a 2 and a 7, but nothing will pair up and move out. I can't do anything with an outside inside, so this right here is going to be my final answer. Okay, next page. All right, so this is just a review problem. Let's go ahead and we're going to break down 54. And so when I break this down, I'm going to have 6 and 9. The 6 will go to 2 and 3, and the 9 will go to 3 and 3. So the 3's pair up and move out. So I have a 3 on the outside. On the inside, I have a 6 left. That 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, now u to the 4th, if I think about that guy, I have 2 pairs. So I've got a u squared on the outside, no u's left on the inside. V squared, I've got 2 v's. They both move out. So I have 1 pair on the outside and no v's left on the inside. So that's your answer. Okay, so on this one, I've got the square root of 294, and so I'm going to go ahead and break this down. I know 2 will go into it, So 294 divided by 2 would be 147. All right, 147, we'll have a 7 come out of that, and then I'll go to 21, and then 7 and 3. So 7's pair up and move out. So on the outside there, I have a negative 49 now because I had to multiply it by the negative 7 that was already out there. I still have the 2 and the 3 left here on the inside. So I'm going to have a 6 left on the inside. And then v squared, 2 v's pair up and move out, and there's none left over. So your final answer is negative 49v radical 6. Okay, so on this guy, I'm going to go ahead and multiply. So when I multiply, again, there's a 1 on the outside here. So 6 times 1 is 6 on the outside. On the inside, I'm going to go ahead and put the 6 and the 2 together and get 12. And now I'm going to break this down to 3 times 4. And then 4 will go to 2 and 2. So the 2's pair up and move out. So now I have a 12 on the outside when I multiply the 6 and the 2. And then this 3 didn't have a buddy, so the 3 is going to stay on the inside. And that's your final answer there. Okay, number 4. Okay, again, multiplying the outside numbers. Again, there's a 1 in front here, so I have a 4. 3 times 6 is 18. And then r and r squared would be r to the third. Okay, I'm going to break down my 18. It's going to go to 2 and 9. And then 9 will go to 3 and 3. So the 3's pair up and move out. So I have a 12 on the outside. I have a 2 left on the inside. And then r to the third, there are 3 r's. So I have 1 pair on the outside. And this poor little leftover guy is on the inside. So 12r times radical of 2r is my final answer there. Okay. All right, number 15. Okay, some good old review. This was back from chapter 8. Okay, so when we have a negative on the outside, remember we're going to take that negative through and get a negative 7m squared, a plus 1, and a plus m to the third. 8m to the third. Now throw that guy out, and let's go ahead and combine like terms. So I'm going to put together my cubes. So I've got 8m to the cube plus 8m cubed. So those are going to cancel out. So I don't have to worry about those guys. So those guys are gone. All right, and I go to my next one here, squareds. I've got m squared and negative 7m squared. So that's going to give me negative 6m squared. Okay, and then I go to my m's. I've got 3m. Oh, and that's it. So I'm going to have plus, plus 3m. And then on the last part here, I've got a 1 left over. So it's just going to be a plus 1 for my final answer. Okay, number 16, find the product. So on this one, we're going to go ahead and FOIL this out. So I've got 8p times 4p, 32p squared. 8p times the 2 for 16p. Negative 7 times the 4 is negative 28p. And then negative 7 times the 2 is negative 14. So now go ahead and combine like terms here in the middle. So I'm going to get 32p squared minus 12p minus 14. And that's going to be my final answer. Okay, number 17. All right, this squared means write it out twice. So I've got 6n plus 1 and 6n plus 1. And now I'm going to FOIL. So I'm going to get 36n squared plus 6n plus 6n plus 1. So now again, combine like terms there in the middle. So we get 36n squared plus 12n plus 1. And that's going to be my final answer there. Okay, number 18. All right, so factors. So I'm looking for factors of negative 24, positive 24, that get me negative 11. So 3 times 8 kind of pops in pretty quick there. And if I make them both negative, a negative times a negative will give me a positive 24. And then when I add them, that will get me negative 3. So I have negative 11. So I've got n minus 3 and n minus 8. Okay, now notice it said factor, so we're not solving, we're not setting equal to 0, we're just factoring and moving on. Okay, number 19 here. All right, well, I've got a number out front, so I'm going to need to do 1 times 5. And then on the back side here, 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. All right, so I'm looking for a 4. So 1 times 9 would give me a 9. 5 times 1 would give me a 5. And then if I make that 5 negative, when I add that middle right there, this will give me a plus 4. All right, so this guy right here, 1, 5, 1B, 5B. On the back side, I want a 1, 9 combo. Now I know that when I multiply these 9s, I want that to be positive. And then that means this guy is going to be negative here when I multiply that inside to get that negative 5. So this right here is going to be your answer. And remember, you can always check or FOIL it to check it and make sure it's right. All right, last question. All right, now this one says solve by factoring. So now I should be setting this equal to 0. So I'm going to move this 32 over and get a squared minus 4a minus 32 equals 0. All right, so now I'm looking for factors of negative 32 that get me negative 4. So 8 and 4 pop in, and then if I make that 8 negative, when I add them up, that'll give me a negative 4. So I have a minus 8 and a plus 4 equal to 0. So now set each part equal to 0 and solve. So a will equal 8 and a will equal negative 4. All right, and that concludes this answer key.